let me move on and talk about the other stuff, right? Because I went through maybe like the presidential odds of like Trump's at 70% likelihood of getting elected, and then like he's got all these endorsements and stuff from Elon Musk and people like that. And he's got that photo of him raising the fist. So just giving you guys an opportunity to maybe respond to that. Like, what do you guys think of his election odds? Do you think he's going to win now? Or did you think that he was going to win before? Why or why not? And regardless of whether you think, like, if you didn't think that he was going to win before, do you think he's going to win now? And that's the first question. The second question is, yeah, what are your kind of thoughts on, the endorsements and like Elon Musk endorsements and all that other stuff, or anything else I've talked about so far?
Well, like fact of the matter, I think even before this whole shooting incident, I think people were pretty adamant on going on Donald Trump's side. I think the like cherry on the top of the sundae was the presidential debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Obviously, Biden isn't in a healthy situation or mindset at the right now necessarily, and so people are saying Donald is like a good option because he's the leader of the opposition, right? Generally, people in American politics and Canadian politics only vote for like one side or the other. So if one side isn't really working, they're probably going to vote for the other side. They're not going to vote for like, the American version of NDP. Arguably some may, but I think the vast majority of people would just vote for Donald Trump just because I think he's the next best thing. And I think with this whole shooting and the publicity he's getting, I know it's bad, but it also could be good. I think this is like literally, like I said before, the cherry on the top. So I think he made you pretty good. And with like celebrity endorsements, I guess they're thinking the same way too as well. They're thinking, oh, okay, this is like the best choice we got. I think this is what we need to do. And yeah, people are just like endorsing Donald Trump, which is like pretty unheard of, like maybe 4 years ago and more. But we're in 2024, so it is what it is. Yeah.
For before, I think that if he was against Joe Biden, I think he was going to squeak by a victory. I thought it was going to be fairly close. But I still thought he was going to win. I think that maybe that realm has increased a little bit because of this attempt. I think that the way that he handled it made him look better after the attempted assassination. Whereas I think that Biden, the more we see of him, the worse he looks. So I think that from that perspective, I think he will be receiving a lot of utility from this because he didn't die, obviously, and because he was able to show strength and he's not dropping out of the race, so it's showing that he's not afraid and that like he's willing to put it on the line for his country. At least that's the perception. Whether or not that's true or not is open to interpretation. Again, we aren't in Donald Trump's head, but I think that it's pretty clear that this is going to be a net gain, given that he's not dead for him. So I think whether or not you're happy about that result, I think it really depends on what your beliefs are on his policies and him as a person. So I'm not going to really speak to that too much. I'd like to remain as neutral as possible. So on that front, I think that, and I think I kind of want to just also touch on the fact that I've seen a lot of people be like, "Oh, it would have been good if he got actually shot and like died or whatever," and I'm like, I think that gets really risky, that kind of thought process, because you're getting into a very angry populace that is by and large more armed, and if they're blaming the Democrats on it, you could get into a very volatile societal situation very rapidly. Maybe not full blown civil war, but I could see a lot of rioting and that kind of thing. So I think the people who have been kind of suggesting that it would have been a good thing, I think I don't think there's been many evidences where an assassination of a politician has been a net positive for a country. So on that front, I just think that I think that that's not ever going to be the takeaway. Just for the people who are who would have celebrated if he had actually been killed. I don't think that the result of that would have been what you wanted, even if you have a pure hatred of Donald Trump. I don't think the net result would have been something that you would have been happy about. So I feel like I need to emphasize that because I think I've seen a surprising amount of people talking about how, and I'm sure some of them are joking, but I'm fairly confident not all of them are joking. And I think that, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, even if someone is joking, I really don't think that these kind of jokes are helpful, or I really don't think people should be making these types of jokes. I understand there's a lot of people that are angry towards somebody like Trump, right? Like you guys know that I'm very disapproving of Justin Trudeau here in Canada, but I would never wish for him to get shot or get assassinated. I would not wish for him to like come to any physical harm because like you said, Tristan, like we can't go down this road of political violence and political assassinations, right? It's just gonna, because it's like, if there's a politician that you hate and then you're cheering that they got assassinated, well, then what's to stop somebody from the other side to assassinate the candidate that you support, right? And then it just degrades into a civil war. And this is the kind of point that I'm trying to drive through, where it's like, even if you're joking, if you don't make it clear, first of all, people might not be like fully clear that you're joking and they might take you seriously. And that's problem number one. And even if it's clearly a joke, then, I think you're like kind of cracking open that Pandora's box a little. But yeah, Tristan, sorry I cut you off. I just wanted to make that point, but finish your thought.
Well, to be fair, I do think that when you're with a certain group of friends, having a little bit of dark humor, gallows humor is acceptable, as long as everyone is in agreement that, or everyone is aware, whether explicitly or implicitly, that what is being said there is a joke and not to take it seriously. So I think that there is some room for humor on this front. I just think that where the issue lies, where the line is foggy, right? Whereas if I'm in a group of friends and we all know that this would have been bad, and we're all in agreement this would have been bad, everything is fine if someone makes a joke. But if you're not sure they're joking, that's when it gets a little bit iffy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would also argue that there's a difference between people joking between friends, like just in person, and putting stuff on social media and trying to influence a large group of people, or like, for famous people, because a lot of musicians and pop stars and stuff like that, people in Hollywood tend to be left leaning. So, I would imagine a lot of them, at least deep down inside, harbor kind of like a little bit of joy that potentially something bad could have happened to Trump. In which case, if they use their influence at public events and on social media to kind of spread this type of, jokes that imply that political violence is susceptible, then I think that's really problematic. So I think that we got to maybe draw a line there as well. Tristan, I don't know if you want to respond to that.
I agree that social media and stuff, and particularly text-based communication, But anything where you're not in a setting in which everyone who is going to be observing the humor is in agreement that it is a joke, I think that that is where you run the risk, because if I make a joke about getting paid by some political party, and I'm clearly joking. I'm not paid by them, and I'm making a joke. But then someone who doesn't get the joke then goes and runs off and is like, "Oh, they're paid by this political party." Then suddenly it it changes. It's like obviously a different meaning than what we're intending because it was a joke. It's not real. It's like how like YouTubers like Linus Tech Tips made jokes about like being Nvidia shills or paid by Nvidia, and then people are like, they're actually paid by Nvidia. No, they're just kidding. It's a joke, and it's funny as long as everyone knows that it's a joke. But then when you're broadcasting it, there will inevitably be people who don't understand that it's a joke, and as such, you have to be very careful about what you're saying as a joke, because of the way it will be interpreted by a lot of people who are not on the same wavelength as you, right?
Yeah, and I also think there's a difference between like joking about a shooting and joking about being like paid for a company to like pump and dump the stock or whatever, right? Because like it's pretty bad if you pump and dump the stock as well. I'm not saying that that shouldn't be a crime or anything, but I think that we should probably agree that that's on a different level because it's like a white collar crime, like a financial crime, right? Versus actually taking a gun and shooting someone. So I think that that's like an important difference that we need to distinguish as well. And yeah, my point is that we can't go down this path of just political violence, right? Because this is what happens in tyrannical countries or banana republics or just unstable authoritarian countries tend to have like these types of issues where if somebody goes against like the establishment, then the establishment finds some way to take them out, or there's just a civil war and there's two sides that are like actually physically fighting each other. So this is kind of the point, right? To all those people that are cheering on Donald Trump potentially getting assassinated, it's like, hey, like your whole basis is that if Trump is elected, he'll become a dictator. He'll like put America down the path of fascism. And it's like, well, if you support political assassinations, like who's the fascist, right? Like by supporting this type of violence, you're bringing about like fascism and like authoritarianism and just banana republic, civil war more than anything that Trump could do. Because even if Trump is reelected, I disagree with the premise that Trump is going to be a dictator. By the way, I think even if you have those concerns, I think there's enough checks and balances to prevent like any president, not just Trump, but any president from fully taking over and becoming a dictator, right? Because the American Constitution is set up in a special way. So, I mean, I don't want to get into a debate about how much the president can subvert the Constitution if he wants to, but my point is that like you can't encourage political violence because you then become the villain that you're trying to destroy, right? It's kind of like the Batman quote, it's like you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Like if you encourage this political violence, then like you're worse than your idea of Trump,